Poetry is not what we do. Poetry is who we are. We live poetry. We eat poetry. We make love.
This love is 3D. We're at the confluence of technology. Our souls meet like two streams, sharing each other's dreams.
For no one, so why should we wait for time? Life's a continuous race. You can't slow down, man, even when you see the finish line.
Where were you when I sat in the labyrinths of the dark night, cooking words like a chef making food?
To change the worries, to eat and dress in a style that define you without thinking what the round table people would think
my
about
ink
you.
Don't go astray like bodyguard son. They squander all my thoughts inside this brain bank. It don't lose guard.
Why do the old folks think they know everything? You fail to understand you're not living the times I'm living in. You can see from the start, we're 30 years apart. I have new blood while you're still sustained by an old heart.
Without which you would have never existed.
I speak with a rage that cannot be curtailed. This is no joke in a cocktail. I seek dirt, not wine. Don't get it twisted to think I am sweet. Try a gulp and you will spill blood. Truly, a revolution has no tribe, as Mr. DK once said. It's reality to stare at us all. We've been pushed beyond walls, yet in progression, we keep moving to break more walls. I ask, are we in fool's paradise? We have no roofs over our heads anymore. The stench of corpses now sits our nostrils. The breaking of solid grounds may soon occur from our own bedrooms. And the silent whispers of the dead we may no longer hear. Because we'll be far away chasing our own shadows. In a roofless house without covers. In a confinement of war and its force. In a state of meanness and hysterics. We may soon hope to return home. But it will be no more. Because there is and never has been a home called Nigeria. So, we may have to take 2 steps backwards. We may have to rewrite our history. We may want to cherish an identity. We may hope to sing new songs. We may have to rebuild our foundations. We may have to act peace and not just say it alone. We may want a revolution not of violence but of peace and of the intellect. We may want to hear this poem in the past, but here it is staring at us all. We may have to drink palm wine to clear our eyes for a better future. We may want to have our home again, so let's save it. Okay, my second piece is on a lighter note, but before I perform it, I would like to ask us a very important question. Please be honest. How many of you here would love to either date or marry a poet? Be honest. Okay. Oh. This is not good, though. Ava, you have so many poets here, and none of them, they don't want to marry each other. Okay, I traveled all the way from just down here to tell you that you should never date or marry a poet, especially when you're one. All right, it's a narrative piece, so just enjoy. And please don't take this poem seriously. As a poet, I have always dreamt of marrying a poet. Not until I became victim of a collateral damage. I watched my life like a reality TV show unfolding right before my eyes. And if I were to give it a title, I'd call it Never Date a Poet When You're One. I've written countless lines and verses about my broken heart. I often said no to potential suitors just because they could not use their pen or their literary minds. I watched days, years roll by as mom began to choke my ears with her usual phrase, patience, leave book, go Mario. I remember the scornful jest of friends who had no literary inclinations. But as I sat and my mind raced through the universe, my fingers just could not stop the free flow of words, scribbling life to paper. And for this, I always dreamt of marrying a poet. My quest for a poetic soulmate left my nights soiled with loneliness, but even that I enjoyed, for being a recluse was my true identity. I often went for poetry slams and open mics, thinking that just maybe I'll find him somewhere in the crowd. And yes, indeed, there he was, standing in the crowd with a smile on his face, deciphering words from my deepest deep, and like a dream come true, he became my first boyfriend who was a poet. Progressively, we journeyed through the myriads of kisses, love, and poetic flames, always reading, writing, and reciting poems of love to each other, always conversing and arguing about history, philosophy, religion, always loving and hating, hating and loving each other. But like a hypertensive patient, I received my first shock when it dawned on me that I was his number 6 girlfriend, who was also a poet. You see, that tale came to an end, and I thought to myself that maybe he was just one bad poet, so I dusted the covers of my heart and moved on to another escapade, a new search for a lover who was a poet. Again, many moons walked by, years rolled by, my deafened quest took my nights as a den. Insomnia was my very best friend, but still, the words flowed, paper after paper, pen after pen, round the universe it glowed, whispering and spewing words of transcendental contours, and suddenly, out of the blues, another poet walked by the canvas of my poetic dream. He said he loved me and would place no one above me. He said I was his all and that there was no other. Well, he lied. But his sweetness held me captive for so long. He was the poet who swore that I was beautiful as God as Athena, Cleopatra, Lola Montez. Said I was fierce as Catherine the Great and that the wealth of my poetry was a Barbara Heaton, and that I had an enchanting smile as Cara Pearl. Amusingly, he likened me to Maya Angelou, but to that I gave a frown, for I thought who could ever match her wit. You see, our stride began on the platform of the sweetness that fell from his tongue, and oh, I was in love again, and most importantly, to a poet. But he left me sheepishly smiling like a white fool for days, gloating like a primitive girl in love, and as typical of a desperate lady, I threw my knowledge and wisdom into the love can of this poet. You see, this second poet that I thought loved me was once married to a renowned poet whom coincidentally was my distant mentor. Pensively, I greeted my wounded soul for a peace that echoed in the noise of my sullen heart. Just then, I remembered Mama's words and her pleas. Just then, I felt like my library had done more harm than good. Just then, I remembered how much I was a withered flower striding closer to the grave. Don't get me off, Sparks. I'm not saying you shouldn't date or marry a poet, but I guess I was never lucky. And for the record, all poets are perfect lovers and professional liars. For the wheel of your tongue is stupendous, and the wit of your pen is mightier than your knowledge, even when you're one, because we lie and love over and over and over again. With our minds, with our tongues, with our pens, but above our heirs, we are wise and noble beings. We are intelligent, sexy, fun to be with. And in another lifetime, when I will be reincarnated as a man, when my karma would have served me right, and when I would have reached the peak of nirvana, then, and even then, I'd still love to marry a poet. Thank you.
जन गण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य